The Huda Beauty Pretty Grunge palette was my #1 palette of 2023. I like to do a ranking video each year, and this one came out on top. And Alter Ego just duped that palette, so now we have the Misthaven palette. The Huda Beauty Pretty Grunge palette retails for $69, where the Misthaven palette retails for $24, and you can use my code ANGELA10 to save some money on top of that. This video is kindly sponsored by Alter Ego, and I just love doing these comparison videos so we can see how the shades and formula compare. But usually Alter Ego does a pretty great job, so I have pretty high expectations for this. My plan today is to do an eyeshadow look where I'm using the Huda Beauty palette on one side and then the Alter Ego palette on the other side, but still doing the same look so we can see how the two eyes compare. Let's zoom in and get started. My eyes are already primed and ready for shadow, so I'm gonna use the Huda Beauty palette on this eye, the Alter Ego one on this eye, and then as always, I'm using two different sets of brushes so I'm not mixing the formulas together. Huda Beauty, I'm gonna start with Love Anarchy on a fluffy blending brush, and I'm gonna run this shade throughout my entire crease. Then I picked up a little bit more shadow and I'm just kind of building that up more in the outer crease area. I also wanted to mention that I have done, I think, at least 5 tutorials with the Huda Beauty Pretty Grunge palette, so if you do end up getting the Misthaven palette, you could just follow any of those tutorials and recreate those looks with the Alter Ego one. One thing I wanted to point out before I dip into the Alter Ego palette is that I love how they always rearrange the palettes because it kind of makes more sense to me the way that they do it. So in this case, they did most of the matte shades on this side of the palette and then all the other shimmers over here, and then that cream shadow, the matte black, and this matte deeper brown. So this just looks more satisfying to my eyes personally. But for this eye, I'm gonna pick up Ember. And same thing, I'm gonna be running the shade throughout my entire crease. And then again, I am picking up a little bit more shadow and building it up. I am absolutely certain that I picked up the right corresponding shade from each palette, but I feel like this eye just looks a little bit more rosy, whereas this side looks a little bit more brown. Are you guys seeing that too? I decided I do want to add just a little bit more shadow to each eye, mostly just right in this like inner crease area, and then touching up this side as well. Now I'm taking a smaller crease brush with that same shade and I'm going to run it across my lower lash line. So again, I'm using Love Anarchy on the Huda Beauty side. And then Ember on the Alter Ego side. That same small crease brush, I'm going to take Rise Up from Huda Beauty. So I have that shade more on the flat side of this brush, and I'm going to pack that on the outer part of my lid. And then once I have most of that shadow down on my outer lid, I am going to blend it into my crease. And then for the Alter Ego side, I'm picking up Petal. And same thing, I'm adding that to the outer part of my lid and blending it up towards my crease. Okay, next I want to put a shimmer on my inner lid. So from Huda Beauty, I was thinking either Stand Up or Maverick. I want to do something a little bit lighter. And from Alter Ego, it looks like these two shades are supposed to be the corresponding ones. So Dream is supposed to be the dupe for Maverick, but this shade looks honestly a bit darker. The one in Huda Beauty looks a bit more silver, so I kind of want to try those out and see how they look on the eyes. So I'm going to take Maverick on my finger from Huda, and I'm going to pat that on the inner half of my eyelid. I think I want to do Stand Up next to that one, so do kind of a gradient from this lighter to a slightly deeper shimmer. So now I have Stand Up on my finger, and I'm going to go kind of right in the middle, where it's going to connect Maverick to this outer corner. I'm going to go back to my small crease brush and just softly blend around those shimmers. And let's try to do the same thing on the other eye. I'm going to start with the lighter shimmer Dream. I mean, it's a really pretty shade, but it's definitely not silvery like the Huda Beauty one is. Okay, wait, this one's Twinkle, this is Dream. Maybe I had those backwards. So I'm actually gonna take Twinkle from Alter Ego. I'm gonna do that one first, so I am kind of putting it on top of what I just laid down, but that's okay. I just have to do a bit more blending. Okay, yeah, that seems right to me. It's funny because in the pans, they just looked so different. And then adding Dream next to that in the center. I'm gonna add more Twinkle because I feel like it's just not looking as sparkly as the Huda Beauty side. It's trying, but it's just not exactly there. I do think that second layer helped though. Adding a little bit of stand up to the inner lid on this eye just to make the eyes look even, since I did kind of mess this one up and do the shimmers backwards at first. I think the eyes look much more even now, but the sparkles on this side just seem a bit better. Now I'm gonna pick up Hope from Huda Beauty on a shader brush, and I have that shade on the tip of my brush, and I'm gonna start by stamping that kind of on my outer lash line, but also bringing it up to be on the eyelid. So I'm kind of starting this shade really low, pretty much on my lash line, and then just lightly bringing that up a little bit. I'm also bringing that darker brown along the outer part of my lower lash line. And then just going back to my crease brush with nothing on it and softening out that darker brown. And then from Alter Ego, I'm picking up Nutmeg. Right, that darker brown shade is laid down, then again going back to my crease brush and just softly blending. Okay, I think things are looking good so far. There's not really a good highlighter shade in this palette for me, so I'm gonna go into my palette with Sigma and just take the shade Bright and put that on both eyes. This is the most perfect highlighter shade, in my opinion. I'm gonna go ahead and finish on my eyes with some mascara and lashes, and I'll be right back. All right, I went ahead and finished up the eyes with some mascara and lashes, and then I also added a nude liner in my waterline. But for my lashes, I'm wearing the Bright Lashes All Naturel, but I've been cutting these into a little half lash, so it's just sitting right out there on the outer corner, and I love how these lashes look. Looking at both eyes, I think they do look pretty symmetrical shade-wise. I still feel like this eye just looks slightly rosier, especially in the crease area, where this one just looks more brown. I think it was that first shade I started with in my crease. And then I did have just a little bit of trouble with those shimmers. I do think the shimmers on the Huda Beauty eye are just a bit more sparkly, but I mean the Alter Ego one still looks really pretty. Here's what the full face looks like with both eyes done. On my lips, I'm just wearing the Huda Beauty Faux Filter Lip Gloss. I bought this myself when I did a little Huda Beauty order, and this is in the shade Bombshell. It is a super glossy gloss. It's also a little bit of a deeper shade than I typically go for, but I actually really like this, especially with this look too. I feel like from a distance, I really could not tell that I'm wearing two different eyeshadow palettes right now. So that is going to wrap up this video. I want to say thank you again to Alter Ego for sponsoring this video. Again, if you want to check out the Misthaven palette, my code Angela10 will save you at 10% on their website. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.